First piece on the very first Beefhart album is a song called Sure Enough and Yes I Do, traditional blues. And this is when Ry Cooder, young Ry Cooder, was in the band. Drafted in there, actually, after the teen fair that was referred to earlier. Anyway, he loved the blues, obviously, but often when Don was questioned, he was very evasive and playful in a Dylan-esque kind of put-on tonality where he would say, well, I never actually listened to the blues. It was on in the room maybe at some times when I was in this room, but I never actually listened to it. But obviously he was schooled in it, and I had encounters with him in Lancaster once at it wasn't the Denny's. He was famous for going to Denny's diners, but there was a very beat coffee shop come bar on the outskirts, and one time a guy came in and he went, hey man, it's Don Vliet. He said, you mean Don Van Vliet? Actually, Van Vliet was the original family name. They changed it back. He said, yeah, Don Vliet. Again. We threw you out of the car club, man, do you remember? Don said, well, you want to talk about quantum math? Anyway, he said to me, I remember seeing you, man. You were the greatest. You could do Jimmy Reed, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. Now, these were all definite influences, and Don loved the blues, let's be honest here. But what he did with them was something else, and totally original, and created actually music. I've never encountered really any music that had the staying quality. And there were years I couldn't listen to it for various other reasons that had really nothing to do with the music per se, but going back to it, it still exerts a fascination and power. And after hearing it, really, it's like hard to listen to any other music. It has this kind of intensity and focus and drive that I think is sorely missing in most music that's out there back in the day and today. All right, so I'll switch over to electric for the next piece. I should say a few words about guitars. As I said, he was famous for saying guitar is merely a stand-up piano. His favorite guitar manufacturer was Fender. I'm staying out in Riverside, California, actually, with my family and coming in for this symposium. I'm told there's a Fender museum just down the road a piece from where I'm staying, so maybe I should check it out. Other times that Magic Band members did play other guitars, but predominantly, to get in the band, you had to really have a Fender guitar. He liked the sound of these things very much. And, well, the next piece is a solo composition called Evening Bell from the very last Beefhart album. And the genesis of this is, he said, I'm going to give you a piece of music that they're going to have to dust off the hands of Big Ben to be able to keep time with this thing. And, so he sent me a tape of him playing the piano. And this thing became my Zen mantra for a while, for a season. I totally absorbed myself in the music. I had a day job at that time working at CBS Records. And every day before I go into work, I'd listen to this tape. I get up about 6 in the morning, and I just sit with my guitar and study this tape intensely, and put in a couple of hours before going in. And I was lucky to get 5 seconds of music down each day. So it took a while. And the basic task was, how am I going to translate this to the guitar by ear and memorize it? Because it was inherently full of all these quirks and stops and starts, which was the Don Van Vliet nervous system in action. And in order to play his music, you had to inhabit Don, really, or Don's persona, and mimic, really, the chemical flow or neurological patterns in his brain. It's translated into his nervous system. And it was encouraged to try and to perform this music identical to what was on the tape. Now, I'd done this previously on the talk at the radar station with another piece called Flavor Bud Living. And there he had me learn it off an earlier version that John French had recorded for the Bat Chain Puller album, which I'm told the good news is that Gail Zappa will finally release this record officially. And it's been out bootlegged from here to eternity in various formats. You can find it if you want it. It's quite a good album. Anyway. But I thought I had a reasonable facsimile of the recording on that record. And my then wife and I, my then wife Ling, and I went out to visit Don in the desert in preparation for the recording of this record. And I played him my version, and he said, "No, man, that's not it." He played it too religiously. He drowned it in heavy syrup, man. I want you to use my exploding note theory. Honestly. I said, what's that? And he said, you play each note as if it had no relation to the previous note or the subsequent note. Kind of like bombs bursting in air, you know what I mean? That was one of his catch-all phrases, you know what I mean? And half the time you really wouldn't know what he meant, but you go along with the ride, you know, because it sounded good and you want to keep the karmic flow going there. So, and I'll say that he was the most fascinating on a one-on-one individual level, most fascinating personality to engage with. It was quite magical the way Don's mind worked. I mean, the elusive quality of the wordplay and the, you know, oh yes, another like technique of his, he said, I told him about James Blood Ulmer, who he eventually hooked up with on a concert in New York at the Beacon Theater, a double bill. Blood opened for us. And how he was playing Ornette, he played with Ornette Coleman, who Don once regarded as a hero. He was using Ornette's harmonic theory. Don said, what? What is that? I said, well, as Ornette explains it, it's harmony, motion, and melody, harmonic. He said, man, that's as stupid as rope-a-dope. I guess meaning a jive term to confuse white people. I don't know, you know, like I said, methodology. And he said, I've got a method too. It's called avant-tangent. He never did explain that. But anyway, the exploding note theory, I did put into practice if you listen to Doc at the radar station, Too Flavored But Living. Now in this piece, also he had me kind of soup it up with the staccato phraseology, but there's a version that's a more languid demo that's on one of the, I think the Revenant box, I gave it to them, which you can check. And it took me a good couple of months to master what I thought was a good version of this. And I sent it to him, and he said, yeah, it's pretty good, but that's not it, man. That's not the whole thing. So what do you mean? I said, well, there's more, obviously. I said, there is? He said, yeah, I'm going to send you another minute of music. Yeah. Learn that. Okay. So he did. Another tape arrived, a cassette in the mail of him at the piano, maybe recorded. I don't know when it was. I think in the Trout Mascara. He was fishing into the treasure chest sometimes for older stuff. And I was always pushing him to get a piano and then go down to the, you know, high school in Lancaster, get on the piano there and then record just like new stuff and stuff. Anyway, so he sent me this tape and okay, I learned that too. And then, but the bitch